Good morning. Welcome to our live Q&A with Steve Porcaro and Bari Rubin. Today, we're going to be starting off the conversation with throwing out some questions about communication skills and then kind of open it up to some of the topics that you may want to chat about. I just want to take a moment, talk a little bit about our housekeeping tips. At the moment, there doesn't seem to be a lot of weather happening in this part of the country, at least. But if for some reason we get disconnected, feel free to call. We'll be here for the next 30 minutes. And sometimes it does happen where there's a glitch in the system or there's a thunderstorm or something happens with technology. If you can call right back in, we'll be here. If not, I'm recording this and I'll be able to send you out the recording when we're done. In addition, if you're online, you can raise your hand under the participants tab on your toolbar, and there's a little hand there where you can raise your hand with a question. But the nice thing is we should have a relatively small group today where we'll be able to converse openly. For those of you on the phone, feel free to unmute yourself. And again, this is more of a two-way conversation. I don't want to sit here and talk for 30 minutes. I know Bari doesn't. So between us, we want to hear what you have to say and how we can help you. With that being said, if you want to email a question in, I know some people have emailed some questions in, support@salesplusmvp.com, one word, and we'll be able to take that question live, hopefully while we're on the video. And in the meantime, there's a chat bar. If you want to enter or send a question for those of you who are online, you'll notice on your toolbar next to the Manage Participants, it says Chat. You can open that up, type your question in, and we'll get that and we'll share it with the group. Bari, anything else we forgot before we jump in?
If we ask a question and you want to just answer yes or no in the participants bar, you'll also see the green yes and the red no button. So you can just hit those. And in the chat, you can either send the chat directly to Steve privately, or you can post it publicly to the group. You'll be able to toggle that.
All right, well, great. All right, so let's jump in and we'll get going for the morning, so to speak. Again, the idea here is we want this to be a call really for you to focus on what's important and what type of questions. We are throwing out a topic today based on communications challenges. It comes up all the time. It's one of the things I run into all the time with my clients, either personally or within small organizations. And then again, that's our topic, but you're certainly welcome to ask anything related around that or any question you have. So I want to open it up just to get going. Time's going quickly. Who would like to start off with their first question of the morning? Cindy, you have a question?
Do I have a question, Cindy?
Yeah.
Yes, mine's very general. It seems like a lot of us are looking for employment within the medical device world. What are some recommendations or suggestions you may have as far as breaking in to the area or making contacts, that type of thing?
Okay, good. It's a good question, and I'll do my best to answer it within the time allotted. That's something near and dear to our hearts. Bari and I, when we started these groups years ago, that's been an ongoing question, and there is some 50,000-foot view tips that we can share with you. Everyone is in a unique situation, coming from a different background, experience, industry. So one of the things that we've put together. We put together a webinar on how to break into medical device sales. But the biggest thing I can share with you right up front, and then Barry can chime in, at least on my end, is that understanding what type of sales professional you are. And I don't know if you've seen this or I've used this analogy. If you were a professional athlete and you wanted to play a game, or you have, as a child, you were growing up, we usually gravitate to one sport or another based on our ability, our skill, our aptitude, what's enjoyable for us. So most children grow up practicing one or two sports. You can use the same thing with instruments, right? If you were growing up in a musically inclined family, you may have an aptitude to play one or two certain instruments. What happens in sales, and if you use professional athletes as the same example, there's a big difference between a professional golfer, a professional bowler, a professional football player, hockey player, baseball, and the list goes on. So what happens is, for some people, and I've run into this with clients over the years, is that they come in and they say, I'm a salesperson, I can sell anything, and I want to get my foot in the door, which certainly makes sense. On the other hand, I think the more you can define what your specialty is, are you a hunter, are you a farmer, or are you a consultative sales professional, somewhere in the middle, the easier it is for you to look for companies that will allow you to do more of the things you're good at. And that means learning the industry. And again, for some people, depending on where they're coming from, they don't realize how diverse the medical device industry is. So coming in and just getting them to realize that every product that's used to help treat a patient in a hospital and a clinic is considered a medical device of some type, other than the office supplies or some of the other things going forward. So for most people, my suggestion is find out what type of sales that you're good at. And then when you're, again, if you're a hunter, you're a farmer, or a consultative sales professional, then when you're reaching out to network with people on LinkedIn and you narrow, again, it's really hard to hit a target if we don't know what that is. And this is the part where, as you start going through this process, if you take the word medical device out of the role that you want, you're still selling consumer goods or B2B, right? Hospital equipment, capital equipment. The more specific you can be, the easier it is for you to network with people and ask about their company, their industry, their specialty, to build that relationship and to help you really get in the right direction. Some of the people that I've spoken to, again, over the years, I've been in the field for 20 plus years before I started this business. They'll get calls from people, and I'm very careful when I refer people, is I want to make sure that my contacts, and this happened, Steve, I talked to this woman who didn't understand what we were selling, who we were selling it to, and she might be a great salesperson, but she doesn't really understand what she's looking for. And that's the biggest challenge that I see for people who are transitioning. So again, 50,000 foot view, Cindy, is that what you're looking for the moment?
Well, I do have it narrowed down.
Perfect. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's my first. I've accomplished that. I think my biggest challenge, perhaps, is just breaking into the individual companies. So on a personal note, I sold for Nestle Nutrition for a number of years. And included in that were enteral feeding pumps and enteral feeding devices. So I know which companies to look at as far as who's really into the big GI realm. It's just a matter of getting my foot in the door. And I guess probably what you will tell me and what I've been working on is using more LinkedIn. to get those networks growing.
Yes, I
Do you
mean,
have any other advice?
well, yes, you have some inside knowledge, right? And you have some connections, and again, allied or affiliate connections. I would connect with your first and second connections to see if they can introduce you to people, so you can get their advice and counsel about the right company or specialty for you.
Mm-hmm.
So the nice thing is, it's really picking up the phone and seeing who can connect you and looking at your contacts. And again, you say you have a direction. You told me where you're coming from, but I don't think I heard where you were going, or unless I missed that.
Where am I going as far as?
Right. What
I don't understand your question.
product, company, specialty?
Right, GI.
GI. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. I heard that, but I didn't realize that's where you're going. All right. So GI is, when you say GI, what do you know about that subspecialty?
Well, things like endoscopies, a variety of scopes. That's, again, the different feeding devices, parenteral and enteral nutrition.
Okay. So on one hand, okay, so here's the best tip I can share with you at the moment. If you want to do something GI related, and even within GI, there's a wide spectrum of products and services. So again, if you just did a search for people you're connected to, again, I don't know what the top 3 companies are, or the top 4 or 5 companies are in the GI space, but for scope repair, nutrition, you're talking about, that's a wide spectrum. Focus on those companies or the people who sell those related products, and that's your first step to find out. If you're calling and you want to work in a specific area as well, I assume you want to stay where you are?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I'm open to relocation.
Okay. So one of the things you want to do, again, geographically, you can search for contacts or you can look within a specialty. But here's the thing, when you connect to people, did we connect by any chance?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth.
Okay, well, that's fine. And that goes for everyone on the call. I mean, part of this is networking, right? So if I'm connected to somebody and I can introduce you to somebody that may be helpful or have more information, because this is a process, right? It's almost like a warm call as you go through that process. But I would certainly search for companies providing GI products and services. I don't know who the top players are, but you can search those. And those are the people, if you're in one of the medical device groups, those are the top people you want to be reaching out to.
Okay.
All right, that's from the 50,000 foot view.
Sure.
All right.
Appreciate that.
All right, and don't forget, let's connect and see if I can help you. All right, so.
Oh, yeah.
Phil sent a question in, and well, first of all, Phil, thank you for being here. You're welcome. And you're looking for, let's see, I've been a buyer and director of purchasing, SCM in healthcare for over 25 years and a first-time participant from Silicon Valley. And you survived. Congratulations. So you're looking at Olympus, Boston Scientific, Cook, and Pentex are the companies. All right. So are you looking to break in? You looking for introduction to those companies, Phil? Or Philip?
I think he may be muted.
Yeah, I think he's on the phone. He may not be able to talk. What do you think? All right, he's typing. He's coming up. All right. In the meantime, we'll wait to hear, because I'm not sure what the question was, Barry. Oh, he's here to listen and assist. All right, thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So he's a longtime supporter of the medical device industry. Nice to have that. All right. So let's go on to other questions. We have some new callers. Who would like to ask a question? All right. We have some people who are listening. I don't bite. I can't speak for Barry, but if you want to ask a question, this is a good time. Anyone else? All right. So we did have a question about communication that's come up. I just want to throw this out and get your feedback. Since we're taking on topic of transitioning within the healthcare medical device field, one of the questions came up: how do I communicate my value or value proposition to people, either using LinkedIn or picking up the phone directly? As many of you know, reaching out to people, social media is a great way to communicate, but it's also an ongoing struggle and a challenge to reach them. So one of the things I wanted to do was to figure out what are some of the best strategies, and I can share some of my best strategies, but how do you get in front of people to help you with that? Barry, I'm going to turn this over to you because I know you've had a couple of good successes, and then we'll follow up with that. In terms of reaching out to people, how do you break the ice when you're networking on LinkedIn? And Barry's been the group manager in our LinkedIn groups for 10 years now. I think it's coming up on 10, right?
Yeah, it's been 10 years. Actually, I think it's 11, wow. 2008. Yeah. I think there's two things. First, when you identify people that you'd like to connect to, the key with networking is to always make sure that there's something in it for the other person. Not what's in it for me, but what's in it for you. So when you reach out to connect to someone, I strongly recommend writing a personalized invite so they understand why you want to connect to them, and you're not just blindingly hitting, a long list of add me. And the best thing that you can do is pay them a compliment or share something that you have in common so that they are motivated to connect to you. I see we both work in GI and both worked for Nestle, and then present, I'd love to connect to you. I would love to ask you some questions. If you make people feel like what they have to offer is valuable, then they're going to want to connect. So the first step is personalizing your invitation. The second step, once they connect, obviously, is thanking them. The third thing is to do your best to get them on a quick phone call, because there's definitely a difference between connecting to someone electronically and only sending them brief notes and actually having a conversation with them. They can hear your personality, your knowledge, your experience, your warmth, and those are things that are very difficult to convey with the written word. So I think that's the most important thing is sending out your connection request. I think we could help each other. I'd love to help you. And when you send your first communication after you've connected, don't ask them for something right away. You have to build the relationship first. Let's get to know them a little bit, find out more about them, find out what makes them tick, and then ask them how you can help them. Because when you help somebody, their natural reaction and their natural instinct is to want to reciprocate. So instead of asking for something, give something first, and then you'll be in the position to be able to ask later. And I think that's it in a nutshell as far as, striking up a conversation or a connection with a relationship of someone that you don't know.
Great. Thank you, Barry. That was perfect. It's almost like we've talked about this before. The funny thing is, again, we've been talking about this for many years and helping people. And one of the things that's interesting is, as much as I would like to help everyone transition, sometimes I'll get calls or emails from people which I don't know anything about them. And I use LinkedIn to schedule phone calls. I really want to get to know them and how to best help people before I send them somewhere. Because if I don't do my vetting and due diligence, I'm sending people, it's a waste of everyone's time unless we can narrow down what works best for them. And at the same time, we've worked with many sales professionals and small business owners, and we're caregivers, right? We take care of our customers and each other, our team, and we want to help people in our group. So most sales professionals are willing to help and take a few minutes. So we just have to figure out how to best do that. The interesting part here is, for some people, there's a sense of urgency, whether it's real or perceived. We don't know. And I understand some people are under the gun. Some people, I'll talk to them and they'll say, yeah, I want to plan on moving 12 months. That's great. The best time to dig your well is before you're thirsty. And what happens is, and sometimes life happens, companies downsize, people get laid off suddenly, and then we go into panic mode. But my suggestion with this whole thing is, be very strategic. Take your time, do a little planning. Who do I want to talk to? What do I bring to the table? What type of sales professional am I? What's my achievements? What's my accomplishments? And more importantly, what do I need to learn? What do I need to ask? Who do I need to ask? It is a process. And the funny part is, we're talking a little bit about communication, and Barry and I laugh about this all the time. We can spend all this time writing our profiles and sharing all our information on LinkedIn. Sometimes we don't have time to read it. Life happens very quickly. You can have the best resume and the best LinkedIn profile, but if people aren't taking the time to read it, it's a challenge for you to know what they do know about you and what they don't know. So I always like to ask, what do you know about me? What have you read? What have you learned? What has my contact shared with you, so I can fill in the gaps? And this is a process, I've used this term before. It's the networking pearl, or the referral pearl, right? It starts off like a grain of sand, and each time you contact somebody and have that conversation, you add a layer of mother of pearl over that. And it's a process. It's not going to happen with one or two phone calls. And believe me, Barry and I joke about it. If we had the secret recipe, the secret sauce, we would certainly share it with everyone. But there is no 1, 2, or 3 things to do. It's more of a process, and everyone's coming from a different perspective. So the best thing to do is have a target, know what your goal is, your time frame, and leverage the tools and the technology you have. We all have a lot of connections on LinkedIn. We have a lot of networking ability out there, but it's almost like an untapped gold mine. And even if we step away from LinkedIn and think about our contact, we're all overwhelmed with so much information. If you take a moment to step back and say, who are the top 3 or 4 people I can talk to start this process in my community, at my church, at my alumni group, my children's school, my other activities, it's amazing what has happened. And again, on a personal note, Barry and I, we've been running these groups for years. And on one hand, LinkedIn social media has been very good, but I've also gotten great business from the scout leaders I work with, the people at church, the people I've gone to school with, the people I've worked with without using social media. So I think it's a balanced approach. And the more you understand what your goals are, the easier it is for you to move forward. All right. So
I have one thing to add.
Sure,
and
go
it's
ahead.
on that same note. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to take the time to elucidate your goals and have a plan. because if it happens that you've been laid off and that sense of urgency that Steve is talking about kicks in, if you just immediately run out there, the sky is falling, I need a job, oh my goodness, you're gonna come across as desperate. If you step back and take the time to formulate a plan and understand what you're looking for and know who your targets are, when you reach out to those new connections, you'll be much clearer in what you're looking for, and they will be able to help you, because it's much easier to hit a target when you know what you're aiming at.
Yep.
So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Barry. Yes, Barry and I do finish each other. She's my work wife, and we do finish each other's sentences, so it is pretty funny. All right, so we have a few more minutes. Any other questions as we get to the bottom of the hour? Anything we can help you with? All right. Well, all I can say is that 30 minutes went very quickly. I just want to share a couple things. Thank you for coming this week. Next week, we'll be talking about presentation skills and tips. Many of us have to present while we're transitioning, while we're growing our business. And it's one of these things, public speaking, presentation skills that go hand in hand. And it's one of these things near and dear to my heart. I'll be actually speaking in a group at the end of the month on presentation skills, and it's something that when we talk about interviewing, or we talk about presenting the value, the benefits, why do I want people to work for my company? Why do I want people to work for me? The people who do it more often, the more polished and smoother they are. So we'll be using that as a topic to jump into our presentation. But in the meantime, if you'd like to connect, if we're not connected, please feel free to reach out to Barry and I and connect. If we can help you in any way, network within our LinkedIn groups, feel free. Would love to help you. If you have any questions, you can send it to support@salesplusmvp.com. Other than that, have a great week. We'll see you next Tuesday if you can make it. Until then, have a good day. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.